Next up, I'd like to welcome my very good friend, Bob Gerzoff, WK2Y, who is going to be presenting Uncovering the Complexity of Whisper Daemon Noise Through Kernel Density in Gaussian Mixture Models. And I am told that we need to get a photo of him with his title slide up on the screen, and that would be appreciated by certain members of his family. And I will make sure I do that once we get the title slide up on the screen. Come on up, Bob.
If you'll indulge me for just a moment, happy Pi Day. A moment of culture. A circle remembers what the straight line forgets. Well, thank you. Is it on? It is. Pi Day. A circle remembers what the straight line forgets. Life returns us to the same quiet lessons again and again, until one day we finally see, like pi, truth keeps unfolding without end, revealing slowly what was there all along. Dr. Kesser Mukhtar, my wife, an epidemiologist, retired and has taken up creative writing. Thank you for your indulgence. Like Michael, before me, I am the fish out of water, the public health scientist who I've been a ham radio operator forever. And so I kind of bring a different perspective on the way to look at data and propagation than this august group here. If you're interested, don't need to be for sure, I am on QRZ and LinkedIn. I want to thank first, before I get too far into this, Gwyn Griffiths, who got me started down this path. He got me started with the Whisper Daemon noise data, and it sort of intrigued me, and I started looking at it probably last year, a year and a half ago. So I'm looking at now single station observations from 2022, and in typical statistical fashion, I'm looking at things in aggregate. I'm going to do three things. They're all very basic. 2 out of 3 are pretty basic, and they are the way I would approach these data. I'm going to start with a simple histogram. Then I'm going to do a kernel density estimate using Gaussian assumptions, because after all, this is noise data, right? It should be Gaussian, we would assume it's noise. And then I'm going to apply a Gaussian mixture model to it because I want to explore it. And everything you're seeing here today is exploration. This is not science, I'm not modeling, I'm just exploring. I'm doing this in Python. I will confess that a lot of this was for my own edification. I was looking to learn Python, and this was a great excuse to do it. All right, if I'm a statistician of any ilk, I have to start with my assumptions. There they all are. These are the assumptions when we do a Gaussian mixture model. I'm assuming that the data that I'm looking at is a mixture of Gaussian processes. Whoops. None of these assumptions are likely to be correct, but I will quote John Tukey, all models are wrong. Anybody want to finish the punchline? Some are useful. Thank you. Hopefully this approach will provide some insights. I started last year and I got ahead of myself. I almost want to kick myself on the butt for not following my own principles, which was get to know your data first. I thought I was going to be smart. I was going to look at time, at differences between Whisper Daemon observations closely spaced in time, as closely spaced in time as possible, because that would control for a myriad of things. And when I did that, I wound up with weird patterns, no matter what I did. These are only two. I looked at things. And then I thought, well, I'll run some random effect models and some other more sophisticated models and try to parse all this out. And I thought I was sure I was going to have some great insights. Now, I counted for maybe 1% of all the variation in this data. So I went back to basics. Let's start with a histogram and let's see what the data actually are. Gee, what a concept. Here's a nice quiet station, and this is kind of what we would hope all of our stations look like when we're at home. We have a histogram with most of the observations there. This is the noise level, and most of them are around there. Very, very nice, quiet station. If we look at it using a kernel density estimate, there we have that one nice peak. Gee, isn't that great? And now I apply my Gaussian mixture model, and oddly enough, it says, well, yeah, that's 50%, and that's the component there in the different colors, and that's the percentage that each component is accounting for, is saying, well, that first component is accounting for 60% of the data. No, that's not bad. I mean, there's no station's going to be perfectly quiet. We'd like it to be. I could probably be a DXer if I had this station. Well, that's Maui. Don't we all wish we lived in Maui? All right, here we go to Europe. And here's the histogram with the descriptive statistics. Notice the high variability that we see here, which is typical, which is what I've always been finding. And there's a very noticeable second peak, and there might be some other peaks in there. Now, what got me was I ran my Gaussian mixture model, and I will say just briefly that I'm using AIC and BIC criteria to decide how many components there are. Given the amount of data, I'm not sure I believe it. I also have never worked with this Python routine more, so I have to really investigate and see what is it that it's really telling me. But 10 components? Are you kidding me? Well, that's what it's telling me. And at most, we're accounting for any one component in this mixture is 0.140. Here's N6GN. Kind of an odd distribution again. This is certainly not the normal bell curve that we all learn in Statistics 101. What is that? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. It's up to you guys to tell me, please. Or tell me how else I should be looking at this data. Here's the model that it came up with, 9 components. Very, very interesting. Some of those I believe, some of them maybe I don't, but regardless, there's a whole lot more complexity to the distribution of these noise data than one would initially be led to believe. And here's WA2TIP, probably on the East Coast somewhere with a nice suburban lot is be my guess. Notice lots of distinct peaks there. And again, we have 8 components. So we have a very complex distribution to what we are calling, again, noise. One more. I'll just notice how all of these look very, very distinct. Every one of them, except for maybe Hawaii, but even there, has more than one peak. There is usually, and I haven't looked at every single station, but it seems to me that there's usually one dominant component. Obviously, there's a multitude of explanations. They could be temporal, they could be spatial, they could be station-specific. But I think we need to understand what those are in order to make real good use of these data. I have no conclusions for you. Sorry. The data speaks for itself. If I were taking this from a public health perspective, I would say that the idea of noise data is not a good case definition. If I wanted to go really far out, I'd say there is no such thing as noise data. We need to qualify it, quantify it. There may be 30 different types of noise data, and they may all exist at one station. So before we go and torture this data or use this data in any fashion, I think it behooves us to really get a grasp, get a handle on what we're doing. And I think that would simplify a lot of the issues that we're having. One of the nice things about this particular approach that I'm taking, and I took one specific approach, there's other models that could be used, is that every observation then gets a posterior probability weight, and that can be used to distinguish what component that observation came from. I think there's a lot of research that could be done with that. There's other alternative models, as I mentioned, and I think there's a lot of basic research could be done, those of you who are looking for master's and doctoral projects, and looking at the variability between stations and time and things like that. And again, this is just the noise data. We haven't even gotten into the RF propagation data. Thank you, and 73.
Bob, just to share a comment that was online from Chris Bricker, it says, "It is interesting if we had more fingerprints of noise sources to help with this."
I'm not sure I understand exactly what they mean by fingerprints, but certainly I would like to get more details about the stations, more details about the environment that these observations are made. I think that would go a long way to helping understand the data.
I might hazard a guess at what fingerprint might mean.
Please.
So one fingerprint of noise might be, say, you have a switching power supply that has gone rogue in your station, and you want to know what that looks like, and that might help address one of your Gaussian, one component.
Right, assuming it's Gaussian.
Assuming, well, yeah, there's a lot of things. And, maybe another one is broadband noise from lightning, what we think is broadband noise, but in some places it might be less broadband than others.
Absolutely.
And I think what's really nice is the Whisper Daemon group has really, opened up this whole category of noise study by really carefully making measurements of this and putting it into the database, and having people like you, Bob, look at that data, whereas I think most people out there would probably just say, oh, it's just noise, I don't care about it. We're learning that there's a tremendous amount to be learned by studying this. So thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need my phone back.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Thank you so much, Bob. That was really wonderful. All right.